final best of 3 to close out the first day of the Eastern Clash. And unfortunately for the two teams in attendance, it is another elimination match. I'm Gillyweed here with Wolf and Caldor. Wolf, I was up here with Caldor, got to hear all his thoughts on the last series. What do you think of DK versus CE?
It's a shame to see the Kittens go. I feel like they played a really good series, and to be honest, going into this tournament, we knew they were undefeated in SEA, but I feel like they brought some fire into this first day and looked stronger, I think, than anyone imagined. So even though CE was the better team at the end of the day, I feel like it's really disappointing to see them go.
I really thought it came down to nerves with them. I feel they tunnel visioned a little bit at the end and felt pressure to make too many plays. They looked strong on the first map. I really thought they looked very solid on the second one as well. And their draft had potential. They just were too focused on team fights and didn't focus on the macro strategy that they built up in the draft.
Well, now we move on to Soul Torturers versus SPT, Super Perfect Team. So we've got SPT versus ST. I anticipate that we won't mess that up at all.
Not a single time, never.
Not going to happen.
Well, we've got SPT. They are wanting to make sure that they can go forward. Let's actually take a look at our first team. Teams moves on in CE of the last series, and now SPT is put to the test to see if they can continue on. But as we know, this team has had to make a role swap to accommodate for their sub, Simba, who is pictured here.
You know, I feel like when you look at it, though, it's a team that clearly understands the strengths of Simba, and you know, a lot of people are joking about the heroes he was played on, but I feel like the heroes he is played on, even if he's hyper-aggressive them or if he makes mistakes, overextends with them, can get some value out of the heroes, right? The traits of the heroes, for example. But I feel like the thing with SPT that you have to remember is they've played actually with 26 different members throughout their entire history, starting from the beginning.
Wow.
They've been through so many different rosters, 5 main rosters through tournaments, but they've actually seen through subs and swaps 26 different players, and this, I guess, makes the 27th.
And they still can't find 5 people that get a visa for a tournament. No.
But you have to wonder, what is the identity of Super Perfect Team?
Okay, wait. I really want to apologize for that one, but I just couldn't pass up on that. No,
You are forgiven.
they have so much bad luck. We talked about mid-season brawl. We talked about this tournament. It seems like every single time it's a new player that all of a sudden doesn't get the visa. And it must be so frustrating for them.
Yeah, I want to highlight that this isn't all on Simba, obviously. Misaka has done a great job of playing his ranged, the heroes, filling in for the ranged role of Melody C. And SPT's way of team fighting is they like to create chaos, they like to create skirmishes, but that doesn't work if they don't have all 5 members there. And so they have to they've just basically been hit very hard by it. But we have on the other side Soul Torturers, so let's take a look at those members. Another team that has been facing a role swap, putting this guy here, Cucumber, more on a assassin type role, switching it up with 005, and then putting Zola, who we have known for a long time to play great melee heroes like Zeratul on the support role. What do you think, what are your initial thoughts, Wolf, so far on how this swap's been going for the team?
I think 005 coming into this roster specifically, not to change topics too much from what you were saying, but I feel like he's actually played a really good Dahaka, and I think that has kind of defined Soul Torturers in this tournament so far. And the other faces we know, right? We know God Dog, we know Zola, we know Skrull, we even brought back the old ETC there on Sky Temple. We know this team for the majority of its roster, and the new players that have come in, notably 005, I feel like gel with the team. You can feel the synergy, the macro rotations, they feel crisp. Some of the teams you see in this tournament have gotten nervous. We saw Deadly Kittens mess up the macro play, mess up the map rotations when things got tense, but this team, I don't feel like they did. I feel like they stayed together as a 5-man. They all had a clear theme in every draft, and when they moved, and when they made rotations, there was clear communication.
You see it on the screen right there. I feel that synergy is one of the most important things for them. Every single time you have these guys in an interview, there is just friendly banter going on, and you can really tell that the team just comes together. And as long as they can translate that into their playstyle, it really works for them. And they are the team, I mean, they were known as the gatekeepers for the longest time, since in every tournament when they're facing off against NA, North America really struggles. They bring the fight not only to NA, but to every other region as well. And it's pretty impressive. Personally, I believe that one of the reasons why they're able to just grow as a team so much compared to other non-league region is that they actually have a situation in which they can practice against Korean teams with less of a ping issue. And they've been highlighting that a few times, saying that because they are able to practice against the Korean, they really think that 4th place is more realistic, since Korea is just a bit too strong to handle. But then again, Wolf, your boys have been struggling a bit this tournament.
Hey, it's not been the perfect tournament for them, and it wasn't a perfect mid-season brawl.
Yeah, I was about to say.
But look, Black League's dominant. We'll talk about this a little bit more tomorrow, but I mean, sure, the Koreans not the top in the world anymore. I do have to, now that we're on the same desk together, give you the EU high five. I'll pass the energy over there.
Oh my goodness.
I really missed it when we had the mid-season brawl, by the way. I was just like, why am I not casting with Wolf? I could really give him so much here right now.
I mean,
all right. Korea and Europe aside, we're talking about China versus Taiwan here, so let's just slow it down.
North America just got a little bit salty over there.
I don't know what you're talking about. All right, here it is, the battlegrounds for this best of 3. I'm just going to forget that these guys are at the desk with me. We've got bans on Brex's Holdout and Dragonshire, and then Soul Torturers have picked Sky Temple for game number 1.
Well, it seems to be that with the Dragonshire ban, it looks like the Super Perfect team not willing to deal with the macro rotations that we've seen. Dahaka so strong on this map, and with Scroll playing the ETC, which is very strong in that bot and mid lane on the map, something that they're scared of, and also the Dahaka play, again, from 005, that looks so scary. You want to avoid that, but I do like the Sky Temple map pick because it serves very similar roles in terms of macro play and rotations, and that's what Soul Torturers has been focusing on in this tournament.
For me, one of the things that I really want to see is Super Perfect team, because when we talked to them, they of course highlighted that it is rough for them to miss out one of their players, one of their strongest, and now playing with Simba again. But at the same time, they said that they have a few strategies they haven't showed yet, and we can't go really into too much detail about it, but it was pretty exciting when they revealed what that could be. So if these pocket strats that they prepared come out, they have to come out now, since this is really your last life. And if that happens, then we're going to see fireworks.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've seen Nova already, the precision strike. Not too great success, unfortunately, but, you know, Nova used in pro play. It's always an exciting thing.
And why did they lose? No last rights.
Yeah, they should have taken last rights. Against a chokehold, come on!
If you go all in, then you have to go all in. So,
I mean, you guys at home are probably really stressed out watching it as well. But Calder and I backstage during that series, we were jumping up and down on the couch hoping for last rights, and it was just not coming.
Exactly.
Well, let's talk about Soul Torturers, because it is very likely that SPT can bring out another one of their crazy strategies here, maybe even the pocket pick that they alluded to in our interview. Do you guys feel like Soul Torturers possesses the capacity to be able to adapt and deal with it the way that Team Facecheck, their sister team from Taiwan, did?
I think so. I think that even if they try to draft standard against whatever it is, they're going to draft, adapt in-game, not necessarily in draft. If we see the flashy 4th, 5th pick lock-ins of said pocket picks, and some we have heard whispers of, some we don't know. If they actually lock those in, I feel like even if they can't counter it in draft, they can counter it in-game. They're an intelligent team, and again, their communication seems to really be on point so far.
And also on top of that, Soul Torturers are extremely confident that they are the better team, not only now against SPT, but also against Team Facecheck. They're saying, if we go up against them, we will actually win this, and we are going to place better than them in the tournament. So they at least believe and have the confidence that going into this series, they have what it takes to take a team down that was already beaten by their regional sister team.
Well, we're now at a point where we can start to talk a little bit about the Western versus the Eastern metas, because we have gotten through nearly a first full day of the Eastern Clash, and we have seen some adaptations. We haven't quite seen the amount of double support, for instance, that we did see by the end of Western Clash, but it is starting to be picked up more and more here by Eastern teams.
Frontline is something that really stands out for me, since we have, for example, in Europe now a bit more of a focus on ETC as maybe not a main pick, but definitely a very good option that you can use. And if you look at the tendency of the Eastern teams to go into Tyrael, this is just simply something that we do not see anymore in the Western style. So I think it's pretty cool to see that there's currently maybe not a completely different meta, but there's different branches with an original start into the same idea, but maybe a bit more of an aggressive style, even from what we're seeing here from especially the Korean team.
Yeah, I feel like that's the big key for me as well in terms of West versus the East is the Tyrael high priority. We're seeing it with the Greymane. We've seen different types of double support to protect the Greymane from Europe, from the Western Clash. But in the Eastern Clash, we're seeing this Tyrael Greymane, like the old way, like what we saw in summer 2016. We even saw Honkono again bringing that trademark Dami build with the Greymane. So secondary supports in terms of tanks, not necessarily in terms of double healer, and the Tassadar double support instead of double healer as well.
Well, as we get into draft number 1 between SPT and ST, I will highlight that we did talk to L5 and they felt like the Eastern meta is behind the Western meta. Unfortunately, we won't get to see who's is truly good until we get to the Global Championship. But SPT now have Illidan as well as Tassadar and Vala, so they have an enabler for both of those heroes, with Dahaka as a global and Greymane on the other side for ST.
I actually really like this for a Super Perfect team. They have to play around Simba quite a bit, I feel, in a lot of these fights. So if they put a very high priority on the front line, that puts extra pressure on him, and they're trying to relieve that pressure right now. First of all, with Illidan being drafted, but also with them showing Tassadar, they already basically stated right away, hey, we are going to play a double support here. So no matter what happens, Tassadar has really an opportunity here to take some of the pressure off Simba at the front line, especially if they're speccing into the armor talent on level 4, which I feel with this particular setup, they should do over the extra life.
I think the Stitches ban here is kind of a trap, because now look at what Soul Torturers have. They have the ability to grab the Uther and the Tyrael now for protection from Greymane, and also for the denial, for the invulnerability for the Illidan. So I feel like Super Perfect Team kind of fell into a trap here, trying to grab up the Vala and the Illidan together. Now they're not going to have any invulnerability. We'll see if Soul Torturers want to do this, but I'm liking their draft better already. They have the Dahaka that 005 has been so successful on so far, and they've taken the Uther away. They already predicted that they would be able to grab the Uther. That's why they banned the Rhaegar. So the support choke in terms of healing now for Super Perfect Team is starting to feel a little bit tighter.
Now, we have seen a couple of strategies already from Super Perfect Team and others when they were forced into different healers. So we could still see a Karazim, for example, which would at least allow the panic button on the palm. We have talked a lot about really liking also to play Malfurion, which so far hasn't really fit with any of the heavy, aggressive melee compositions that were played, since you want to have more of a burst heal. But we have instead Lily and Arthur, so someone's looking for adventure.
I mean, you could defend against the Greymane if it is going to be Wisdom Duelist a lot with the blinds coming out from Lily. Arthas can help deal with that as well. But even the cocktail build is going to be a problem for Super Perfect Team. I feel like Soul Torturers got everything they wanted. They got the Tyrael, the Uther. The only thing that I feel like, and I don't even know for sure this is the case, but for SPT that I feel like is going for them, is that they locked this in almost instantly, which leads me to believe that when they did make that Stitches ban, they knew the Uther and Tyrael were very likely, and they knew they had a backup plan for it. But is this backup plan going to work? Because when you look at the draft of Soul Torturers, this 4 they have already just feels like a perfect Korean draft, a draft that we saw, again, back in 2016 with the Tyrael protection, the Uther protection for that Greymane.
I really liked the draft for Super Perfect Team until Lily came into play.
What? How dare you?
I apologize. Again. No, I mean, they had a huge problem in a lot of these fights just catering to Simba, who is substituting, of course, Melody C, Misaka. So in that setup right now, I think if they go into a Karazim, they have just way more options here, because the double support idea, if you have someone who struggles at the front line, it allows you to not only help Illidan out, it helps her carry out, and if need be, you have that extra shield for the front line instead. And if, for example, Soul Torturer says, hey, we identify this player as a bit of a weak point right now, and we're going to target him, then with the double support, you can really just trade resources and can say, if you try to drop him, we keep him alive with the double support, we trade the resources, and in the meantime, we create space for Illidan and Vala to make their plays. But now you have a Lily, and I'm not quite sure if they can really use that to their advantage, since the biggest counter-argument against Lily oftentimes is that you don't have a targeted heal, really. Whereas Lily is oftentimes being used for just simply her blinds instead.
Well, we'll see how the Lily works out for Super Perfect Team, but up first in the red are Soul Torturers with Cucumber playing Dahaka, God Dog on Greymane, Scroll playing Tyrael, 005 on Malthael, and Zola playing Uther.
All right, and of course for SPT, it's ZZH on Tatstar, Simba on the Lili. It's going to be Wings on Illidan, Misaka on Arthas and Xin Zhao, bringing out the Vala. But I have to echo Caldor's sentiment. I felt like the draft was going the right direction until they allowed the Uther Tyrael. Now you have to think that they had a backup plan, but this backup plan, I just don't know if it's going to be enough when you have to consider that both Vala and Illidan don't have direct burst protection, no invulnerability, and no burst stasis heal, if you will, from the Kharazim Palm that Caldor was talking about. So in terms of team fighting, I really worry about this team. Sure, they have split push power with the Illidan, but also there's a Dahaka on the other side. They have the strong soul laner with the Malthael as well, so Dahaka doesn't necessarily have to just sit up there. He can roam around, and I worry for SPT with this draft.
Well, I do think that both teams got exactly what they wanted. I think that SPT wanted to put Misaka back on the warrior role and make sure that he could be up in the front leading the team where he feels most comfortable. What they planned in the role swap, putting Simba on warrior, didn't work for them, so they needed to make adjustments fast because this is a match where they face elimination if they lose.
All right, well, Xin Zhao is going to get leapt upon here. Simba, no way out. Look at the body blocks. Cucumber doesn't even need a tongue grab here to get the double. And already Soul Torturers just getting the picks here in lane. And sure, 005 is a little bit pressured up here in the top lane. In fact, it's not going to be him on the Dahaka. This time he'll be on the Malthael, but he serves the same purpose. And as you can see in the bot lane, they're going to get a lot more damage done than what the Wings and ZZH could do, especially with Zola now rotating up. Here comes Cucumber. If they get the grab here, this could be a pick.
Wings is starting to jump over if he can. Cucumber and 005 have no trouble taking out that Illidan. And between having drag and the Wraith Strike of a teleport, if Reaper's Mark is applied, Soul Torturers is going to have no problem chasing down any member of SPT, even Illidan, who is usually the chaser.
Yeah, it's just a really good rotation here, and they did it with max value, getting the extra waves in bot lane. They have the lead in temples as well, so they might be able to get, like, say, 1.4 of a temple here if they can actually get a pick. Misaka needs to be careful. Tongue grab does miss here, it looks like. They're going to actually go ahead and contest this with Simba on the Lili, but God Dog is rotating around.
Scroll's going to dive on top of Simba. God Dog comes in as well. Xin Zhao and Simba will separate to make sure that neither is a perfect target for Soul Torturers to take out. Now, Tatstar has moved on to the top temple for SPT, at least to take some of those shots. But ST being able to move on and delay this mid, it's a back and forth so far.
Yeah, it looks like they want to just try to make sure they don't get rushed down here on the top after this one is taken away from them. Want to contest it. The shots have been fired, so we're going to see that rotation down from Illidan. Skrull deep in the back lines here. We'll have to back away, but gets that armor. Here comes Wings for the engage. Cucumber is going to be the target.
Has a burrow for that. Skrull getting pretty low. Wings still being able to chase him down, and Skrull's having a hard time getting out. Uses Eldrin's Might, but is right in range of Xin Zhao, who takes him out.
So finally a pick here for Super Perfect Team, controlling the Shrine early. 005 is actually going to stick around for a long time there. Looked like he wanted to maybe try to make something happen, but not going to happen pre-10 here. So shots fired for the temples will be an advantage of Super Perfect Team, and now Soul Torturers is going to have to go home, lick their wounds, and get ready to go back to the laning phase as we head to that very important third temple. But a very even game. It looked really worrisome for SPT at first. They made those rotations that failed in the top lane. They lost EXP in the bottom lane, but they took the engagement when it mattered most.
Yeah, importantly, they have maintained some sort of an experience equalization with ST so far. But as those picks go later and later into the game, the longer respawn timers are going to matter a lot more. SPT makes a fast rotation to get their Giants. ST are doing the same with their Greymane. But SPT actually, in having that rotation to the Giants and having an Illidan who can merc so successfully, enables them to get both of their camps. So let's see how much they can get done with this tri-lane push at the top with their bruisers.
Yeah, it's just an extra almost gift for them, it feels like, for the picks they got earlier. They had this advantage, and as you said, Illidan clears so quickly. This is going to be a potential pick here. I don't know if they can get the follow-up stun. It is good. Onto Wings, who's taken so much damage the last rites as well. Trying to burn him down, and 005 will get it. And suddenly this early night camp actually might end up being not a boon, but actually a thorn in the side of SPT as it's cleared up very quickly. No EXP lost in mid. Tyrael is taking it. Big heavy rotation up from Arthas as well, so a little bit of EXP lost, in fact, for SPT. They lost Illidan as well, and Soul Torturers turns this small advantage into an advantage for them, not a disadvantage that they had that late camp. They're going to take theirs, and theirs will actually time out better for that third temple.
That it will, and especially because ST do have a Dahaka to push along with that too. SPT SPT don't get their global online until they hit 10 and have the hunt for Illidan. So this will be some time where if Illidan wants to be down in the bottom, then he's going to have to let Dahaka push along with the bruisers for free, or he stays up to the top. And maybe, in fact, they're going to just leave Tassadar on the top to try to clear those out as fast as he can with his Psystorm so that Illidan isn't separated from the core of the team.
Yeah, but there's just no way for Tassadar to rotate in. You could make the argument maybe if Illidan stays up there and they hit 10 in an extended battle, he could teleport down with the hunt, but Tassadar's just never going to be able to get down. So eventually this is going to be a 5v4 fight for Soul Torturers. But look at this. Already the root going down onto God Dog. He is well protected. Even with the blinds here, he survives, and now he can do so much damage once he disengages.
Cucumber comes in, hits a drag, Wings in trouble. Soul Torturers collapse on top of him, but he gets out safely for now. SPT are doing their best to delay and pull Soul Torturers off of this temple, and it has worked. God Dog actually has to go back before he can come back in.
Yeah, and unfortunately they don't clear the top camp completely, but what I do like what Soul Torturers is doing, they send Dahaka mid to get that 10. He's closer and closer, and in fact Tassadar coming down, Illidan's down here as well. The extra wall being taken down gives further EXP to Soul Torturers, so they're giving up some shots here, but they're going to have 10, and if they can get some some picks here with the level 10 advantage, it might not matter they lost these shots.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of teams be willing to stay out very far into their opponents getting way too close to heroic abilities. In this case, so far, it's working for them. They put a lot of damage on Scroll prior to him being able to get Sanctification. But once Sanctification hits, 005 with Tormented Souls, having a Divine Shield for either 005 or God Dog, I'm just very fearful of the level 10 fight specifically with the Soul Torturers composition. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's going to be a really scary thing. There was the hold there for a second on potential judgment, but I feel like with Tassadar in the comp here, Bala, Arthas, you're really messing with fire there. You want to empower the Greymane, who even though went into the cocktail build, is actually going to build towards Go for the Throat, knowing there's really only one solo tank in the Arthas to actually burst down with the Cursed Bullet. The Go for the Throat can be such a boon when there's no burst heal coming out from Lili to protect the Illidan, to protect the Ball when things go wrong, so we can get those resets and do the extra damage. We may see that first reset here as they do invade, and very smartly so, I believe. Super Perfect Team is just going to let this go. They don't want to contest this. It's just simply not worth it.
Now Illidan does have the hunt for SPT, so that lets Wings make sure that he can hunt into a fight and make sure that he is keeping up with Dahaka of Soul Torturers in the global phase. But for now, things have slowed down a little bit as teams are far more focused on getting the mercenary camps, trying to manipulate the positioning of their opponents and make sure that they keep an eye on the boss in the meantime.
Yeah, it's really cool to see how Soul Torturers just takes the small advantage of grabbing the first camp to go ahead and grab red side camp as well to keep the pressure in the bot lane. Illidan's already top, so they're going to have 4 members to be in the bot lane, which means they can get a little bit more chip damage done here to the mid wall. As you can see, 1 cannon tower already down. If they can get a pick, they can get boss. Remember, they have Sanctification, so Misaka a prime target here. Does get away. Looks like Cucumber actually wants this.
Oh, perfect stock location drag as well. They're really trying to see if they could force Army of the Dead. Rain of Vengeance slows things down for Soul Torturers, and now the fight has happened.
All right, here we see Roots coming down here, but it's not enough. Misaka trying to do what he can, but the big slow's coming out. He's so very low already. The cups have worn off. The heals are no longer there. Can Wings dive in and get the damage he's looking for? Cucumber with not the drag target he wanted. He wanted it onto Wings here. That's the first pick in this fight. It's over to SPT. Zola now in trouble here. Looks like he's just going to try to retreat. There's no way they can re-engage. There's only the fort here for protection. No wall. There's the blind. He wants it, but the fort is down. And that's going to be the triple, in fact, now onto Soul Torturers.
Oh, and they've found 005 too. He doesn't have Tormented Souls. He's only relying on the little bit of healing that he can get from Soul Rip to keep him alive and juke back and forth with Wraith Strike. Actually makes him last for a long time, which means that is going to be a staggered death now for 23 more seconds. But how SPT played that fight around the chokes was perfect. They didn't all choke into one point, instead going around one of the choke points with a double split. And that is what I'm talking about. SPT plays on chaos really well in fights, and if they have found a way to do that with Semba, I would be scared if I were Soul Torturers.
And I feel like Soul Torturers' target selection in that fight felt a little bit confused, and for the first time this tournament, they really struggled to figure out exactly where the focus was, and we saw the missed tongue grabs. Here's a hit here onto Misaka, but yet again, he's not the target they're looking for. There's not the 5-man here. The slow rotation coming back now for 005. They want to collapse onto this top temple. If they fail to do so, though, already the Hunt is going to get some extra value bought. They don't get the pick they're looking for, and Super Perfect Team, not only do they escape here, but they get those extra shots. Had the fight gone even worse for Soul Torturers, had they messed up the engage or someone had gotten caught, the Hunt comes in and it's disastrous. So they don't chase further. They're going to rotate down very quickly to the boss, identifying that Super Perfect Team is going for this night camp. If they try to clear this quickly, it's risky, but it could pay off. They're just going to threaten it. They want to see if Super Perfect Team is going to back off on the camp and come down here. They are headed down now, so they're setting up for that bush engage.
Yeah, they are trying to make SPT make some sort of risky rotation by scaring them into thinking that they're taking the boss. They haven't shown yet, but Misaka is checking in on the boss and knows that nobody has at least started this boss. So Illidan feeling comfortable to continue pushing along with that Bruiser camp, but now Soul Torturers hoping that they can strike.
All right, looking for ZZH. The coordination here was good, but ZZH having the escape here. He's Tastar after all. They don't get the pick they're looking for. Now Wings is going to go ahead and come in. Look at Misaka's positioning, preventing retreat. The Sank, though, is so good, and so much damage coming out here as well from Malthael is going to get them the double pick. 005 takes the fort aggro, but should be able to escape here with that self-sustain. The Sanctification there for Soul Torturers turn that fight around.
Same fight location as before, much different results. And that's what happens when you have a Sanctification. You have several seconds between that and Divine Shield of Invulnerability, and Malthael can run rampant with his Tormented Souls, as well as Greymane. Making it so that you have these two different targets, make sure that you still have somebody who can apply a lot of damage, be very scary for the opponent's team if one of them gets into trouble.
You know, it looked like very haphazard from the first glance when they decided to dive in there on the ZZH. It looked like, okay, we're all on the same page in terms of who we're trying to focus down in this team fight, but it didn't look like it might have been the right choice. But the turn there, it felt like it was an intentional bait. Let's go for ZZH, make sure his dimensional shift's on cooldown. They're going to collapse. We can bait the Hunt down, but we have the Sank ready. There's no way they can interrupt it. So really good coordination there on the fly on such short notice for Soul Torturers to bait that fight out and take a win. So I have to say, frankly, I'm really impressed. And they brought themselves back into this game.
Soul Torturers also have one very good tool versus Jug of 1,000 Cups, and that is Touch of Death on Malthael. If they're able to get the application of Tormented Souls, of the Reaper's Mark on a lot of members, and then hit that at once and execute the same kind of fight again, that is going to nullify so much of the healing from Lili. So Lili, Simba has to be making sure that that is being hit at a time when Tormented Souls is not.
That's a very good point, actually, that you bring up. Kind of a rare situation with Lili specifically, you know, that actually impacts her so much when she's using her heroic. Look at what we're seeing with Dahaka split pushing the top, though. Going to be the Hyper Global here, trying to come over and grab the pick, coming for a flank. Skrull is looking for the Holy Ground. Good deny here, though, by Super Perfect Team, but it's Wings who's actually in risky position. They don't collapse on him right now. Looks like they're going to head down. God Dog's the first to poke with the cocktails. As they rotate away, Skrull looks for, yet again, that Holy Ground. No picks, though. No grabs here. No one is vulnerable. They retake control, at least, but it wasn't the pick they were looking for. The Night Camp, though, still pushes top lane.
It is still in top, and Soul Torturers are fine with playing this out the slow way because of that. They're going to aggress forward now, seeing the fort go down, seeing if anybody remains just slightly too long, and especially Skrull and Zola with those stuns, seeing if maybe they can trap someone as they retreat over the Death Bridge. Not finding that, though. Super Perfect Team, they disengage. ST need or want to take down the final fort so they can try to tie up in the structures, because they did fall quite behind in it.
Ooh, good grab here. This time it's onto the Vala, and they finally get the pick they were looking for with this composition every time. Looking for the squishies. Maybe it's ZZH, doesn't have his dimensional shift. They forced it out early, but this time it was Vala who stepped just one step too close to that dangerous tongue grab coming out on the side of the Soul Torturers, who are now going to grab this extra camp. They got the fort, which caught them up in EXP. As you said, they were behind in structures. They got that catch-up EXP. Dahaka, again, freedom to go to the top lane. The Hunt is available, sure, for the chase, but this is a very dangerous push now. They have the poke coming out from Greymane. It's a very strong siege composition for Soul Torturers, and they're hitting both sides of the spectrum here. So Super Perfect Team is definitely going to sustain damage. The question is how much.
Dahaka and Illidan have found each other, and in fact, we actually see 005 heading up there too to join them in that pick, potentially trying to take out Wings, but he hunts out just in the nick of time. So Wings will be just fine, and that did bring up a couple of members of Soul Torturers, allowing SPT to clear out those Giants without too much damage.
Just feels like such a huge win that they were able to get the Hunt. Wings has no idea they're invading this either. Comes in, face checks wrong team. It's not team face check here, but he was definitely going down that path. Looks like now that they've identified it, though, they do want to contest. Unfortunately, Xin Zhao is just not in position. They have to let this go. Might even actually lose dimensional shift for it, though. As you can see here, the body block with the holy ground. It's going to be a pick.
That was so well done, and he Archoned, hoping that he could get the cooldown back of Dimensional Shift and the extra shielding that you get in Archon, but unfortunately, Holy Ground lasted far too long, and the stun was there from Zola to make sure they could get the kill on Tassadar. So that's 34 more seconds until Tassadar will be back, giving Soul Torturers a power play at the start of this Temple phase.
You know, we talked about the identity of Super Perfect Team being a little bit ruined by the fact that they couldn't have their full 5-man roster here. It's Simba who's flexing in, and unfortunately, the coordination in the late game is much better from Soul Torturers. And sure, they have a new roster too, but this is the roster they practiced with going into this tournament. Super Perfect Team has seen 27 players throughout its competitive history, and this 27th one, Simba, isn't necessarily working out for them. As the late game rotations, the team fighting, the target selection is always better for the Soul Torturers, and right now they find themselves already up half a temple. The top temple will be invaded after they finish this one, and things are looking dire for Super Perfect Team. I mean, Dahaka is pushing the bot lane. What can they really do here? 20 is on the horizon.
And you've talked about the story for SPT, but Soul Torturers were given this opportunity, even after losing their regional to Team Face Check, to be able to play in this event, which is in their home country. So they really want to do a great job here. They don't want to be eliminated. Cucumber, Brush Dogs out. No way to stop that after that.
Oh, this is so unfortunate because they missed the pick on Dahaka, and they're going to lose 2 temples for it already. Dahaka did a lot of damage in the bot lane, but this is nearly a keep now, Gillyweed. Super Perfect Team, sure, I understand they can't contest the temple because it's 20 against them. They can't team fight there, but the value of the global here of Dahaka versus the global in the Hunt Illidan has just been much stronger for Soul Torturers. So now get the double temple. They will get a keep, nearly a second one, and this is just the first big milestone for them. That extra pressure is going to help let them get this boss as well. They see with the vision they have in the top lane that SPT is nowhere near this boss, and even if they lost Malthael, a rare occurrence, pretty unlikely, even if they did, the boss is the stronger objective.
Malthael even backing, even at the end of the temple, just making sure that he didn't get caught, because Soul Torturers understand that at this point it is their game to lose. ST using that 20 advantage for a little bit more, getting the boss. We can take a look at some of their Storm tier talents. The biggest one I want to highlight is Bulwark of Light. This does give an additional 2 seconds of Divine Shield, but it might also make Uther a target now that he doesn't have his redemption.
Yeah, I mean, 2 seconds feels like 2 years in a team fight.
True.
It's such an important additional, extension of the heroic here, the Divine Shield. And so it means that more power to Greymane when he goes in. Malthael as well, if that's going to be the target. And here we go, Cucumber looking for the pick here already.
Oh my! Right into the boss stun too, and there is the Divine Shield. And also have the reduced cooldown, but God Dog is still going. They want more. They still have Sanctification. They have Holy Arena from that too, and that'll give them the additional damage. SPT on the ropes here.
So much damage being done here from Malthael's heroic as well, and even though they might not be able to core right now, if they get a pick, they certainly will. Everyone's very low. Here comes Skrull in. Wings is trying to carry this fight, but the boss is doing so much here, Gilly. There's no way they can defend this. Everyone's insanely low, but it will not matter. The core will fall, and that is going to be the win here for Soul Torturers in game number 1.
Excellent control, and coming back from Soul Torturers being down, at least in the structures. So it's good to see that they were able to have that same kind of, resiliency, even versus SPT, when the early game initially looked fairly good for SPT.
Yeah, Soul Torturers was actually in a position where they lost a couple of the crucial fights, and with the disadvantage that they had in levels, it felt like Super Perfect Team could try and really snowball it. But then the one fight, you said it, the same location happened again, the bottom left Siege Giant camp. And then you get the Malthael value. Everybody stacked up, and from there on, the team fights just got better and better for Soul Torturers.
Yeah, I just feel like there was a tug of war with the globals as well, the Illidan versus the Dahaka. And at some point, after they won those 2 big fights, the first one you said right to the left of the boss pit, then the second one they took right thereafter, it was always Dahaka that forced the Illidan to chase the minion waves, to go clear and try to defend, which meant Dahaka was free to find pressure elsewhere. We saw Malthael rotating around as well, and it was at that moment I feel like the game started to fall away from SPT.
The top lane in particular was always under pressure from the Siege Giant camp, from the Giant camp. They did that, the Night camp, of course. They did that over and over again, where they timed it really well with the temple spawning or with them pushing and forcing fights. And every time you saw Illidan just trying to get up there, trying to defend, but structures were already falling. And that was pretty impressive to me because originally we saw a super perfect team from a structural point of view way ahead. They had 2 additional forts. They were looking really strong with that. But thanks to that pressure at the top lane in particular, and then later also the direct pressure for the mid lane, they negated that. And from that point on, I really think that Soul Torture has just gained momentum with every single step of the way.
Well, it did guys seem that SPT, their strategy was to adapt what role Simba would be playing, and whether that continues or not based on the fact that it was Lili that was picked, it did seem like they wanted Misaka to be back up so that he could be calling things from the warrior role where he feels more comfortable. Do you think that's something that they should continue to do even into the next game?
I feel like I understand the idea for putting him on a hero like Lili is, okay, pretty simple hero, right? Okay.
Hold down Q and run around.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of the old joke is if you've got a family member or a friend who's never played Heroes of the Storm, they don't know what to do, they never played mobile before, put them on the Lili because it's a simple hero, right? But in terms of coordination, it even goes further into the team composition as well. The blinds are very useful against Greymane. There were some really good fights with the heals coming out, but you put him on this hero that's very simple. He's not at the level of the other players in terms of pro play. He hasn't played at the highest level in these global tournaments like the rest of the roster has, so put him on the Lili. It worked really well for them in the early game, and I can't really point fingers at Simba in this particular game with the draft he was given.
What I really want to know is if the plan from the get-go was Lili. Because we talked about potential support chokes, and for him, that is more so true than for a real support player that has already played all of support. So I really wonder what the original plan was.